video game shelf, filled with many fantastic and incredible games to play, from the good old nostalgia days to the modern releases. And some pretty shitty games as well. But today, the Gaming Critic finally takes a look at the game that is arguably one of the most requested reviews on the channel. And that, my dear viewers, is none other than SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. And honestly, what else can I say? Well, I guess I can say that in Season 1, Episode 8 of the Gaming Critic's review series was the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game review. So now we are in Season 2, Episode 8, and I figure it's time to go back to the underwater of Bikini Bottom. This yellow sponge along with his pals have struck gold on Nickelodeon and have been featured everywhere, including stuffed toys, clothes to wear, a theater show apparently, and I can't wait to check that out, and of course, video games. If you went up to anyone and asked which SpongeBob game their personal favorite was, they would reply with Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. I'm joking, it's Battle for Bikini Bottom. I could probably guess the reason why everyone loves this game is because it wasn't gimmicky and it wasn't the over-the-top cringe fest. It was treated as a video game. It's pretty obvious that this game is a childhood classic, but with this game just nearly into its 15-year anniversary, as from this recording, can this game still hold up to this very day? And can it even rival against some of the newer AAA games out there? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's finally time to take a look at SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Published by THQ and developed by Heavy Iron Studios, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom was released in 2003, and it was released on PlayStation 2, Xbox, Game Boy Advance, GameCube, and PC. The story begins in a chum bucket where Plankton has built a machine called the Duplicatron 3000. The reason why he built it is because so he can produce an army of robots to steal the Krabby Patty's secret formula. That sounds like a really great plan. What could possibly go wrong? Well, after he created them, he realizes that the switch on the machine has been set to don't obey, and as a result, robots quickly take control of the chum bucket and soon to wreak havoc all over town. Meanwhile, SpongeBob and Patrick are playing with toy robots. SpongeBob wishes that the toy robots were real so he can play with them. Patrick then takes the toy robot and puts it into his magical wishing shell. He then tells SpongeBob that the wish has been made and promises that they will be real by tomorrow morning. The next morning comes and thanks to the great timing by Plankton and Patrick, robots have taken over Bikini Bottom. So it's up to SpongeBob and along with his friends, Patrick, Sandy, Mr. Krabs, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, Squidward, and even Plankton join together to stop the robot invasion. The story is exactly what you'll expect from a SpongeBob episode. And the only difference between this game and other SpongeBob games out there is Battle for Bikini Bottom's story takes inspiration from the other episodes. But, I do need to ask myself one question. How the fuck can robots breathe in underwater? Well, despite that little nitpick of mine, the story in Battle for Bikini Bottom is simple, which is more than I can ask for in a SpongeBob game. It's not over the top or underwhelming, it's a very simple story that many SpongeBob fans will get into. The writing in this game is outstanding. It's pretty clear that Heavy Iron Studios was huge fans of the older SpongeBob episodes, and they knew exactly what they were doing. And this game is actually quite funny. Thanks to its writing, this game brings in a bunch of different comedy bits. Whenever it's breaking the fourth wall or taking something from the show, it's definitely enjoyable to watch. Moving on to the gameplay features, and the whole gameplay structure kind of reminds me of Super Mario 64. Exploring around a hub area, choosing which level to go into, and checking out that level filled with enemies and many items to collect. Did I mention that this game is a collectathon? Well, if you love collecting stuff in platform games, then you'll definitely adore this game. The main item to collect is the golden spatulas. You can get them for doing main tasks like defeating a boss, connecting the beams in Goo Lagoon, or annoying the hell out of Squidward. However, you don't need to get every golden spatula to progress. You only need enough in order to move on to the next section. You can also collect these shiny objects called, shiny objects. Seriously, that's what they're called. You can use shiny objects to pay tolls in different levels and give them to Mr. Krabs to receive a golden spatula. And the last item to collect is Patrick's socks. There are 80 socks to collect, and with each 10 you bring back, you'll get a golden spatula. Wait a minute, so Mr. Krabs and Patrick have been keeping the golden spatulas this whole time? There is a robot invasion going on! Lives are being lost and cities are being destroyed, and yet Mr. Krabs and Patrick are holding the spatulas until they get what they want from SpongeBob. They're just being absolute dickheads. It is the same platforming style that we all have seen and experienced before, but it does bring in some replay value for many gamers that will like to collect everything once they finish the story. You can play up to 3 characters in this game, including SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy. SpongeBob is the main character you play as, and he gets the most upgrades. He can perform moves such as the Bubble Bowl, the Bubble Bash, and the Cruise Bubble. Now that's a lot of bubbles. Patrick is played as the muscle man of the trio, and he can perform moves like the Belly Attack and the Body Slam. Sandy is very agile, and she is my favorite character to play as. She can use her lasso to tie up enemies, swing from one side to another, and glide like a helicopter to reach further away distances. The level designs are brilliant in this game. They took some inspiration from Revenge of the Flying Dutchman's level design, and cracked that fucker up by ×10. They took some of the levels from Revenge of the Flying Dutchman like Goo Lagoon, Downtown Bikini Bottom, and Jellyfish Fields, and they went the extra mile, polishing those levels with a more open world design, and even adding some new destinations to explore like Rock Bottom, Sand Mountains, Mermalair, and even SpongeBob's Dream. However, there is one level that I don't like, and that is the Kelp Forest. It just looks way too dark for my liking, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I've never seen any rivers in kelp forests before in a SpongeBob episode, but yet, this level contains a lot of rivers. But I will say that the soundtrack is great. What's really interesting about the soundtrack in this game is the soundtrack is actually an original piece. It's not copied from the SpongeBob episode, and Heavy Iron Studios absolutely nailed it. I honestly cannot tell the difference between this game's soundtrack and the episodes. One of my personal favorite music in Battle for Bikini Bottom is Where You Slide, and the sliding is really fun to play. Just listening to that rock music and sliding through different pathways, it's one of my favorite things to do in this game. As much as I've talked about how awesome this game is, there are a few minor issues we have to cover. First off, the Sponge Bowl. The Sponge Bowl is extremely hard to control and to maneuver around each obstacle. If people are complaining about hard games and the controls are slippery in racing games, then they need to experience the Sponge Bowl. If you hit one object around you, even a tap, you lose control of that sponge bowl, and it can be tough to really control that fucker. It's great to have nearly all the voice actors from the SpongeBob episode, such as Tom Kenny, Roger Bombas, and Mr. Lawrence. Notice how I said nearly all the voice actors. Unfortunately, Heavy Iron Studios could not get Clancy Brown, who plays Mr. Krabs, and Ernest Borgnine, who plays Mermaid Man, to voice those characters in this game. The person who voice acted both Mr. Krabs and Mermaid Man was Joe White. I can't say he did a terrible performance. I mean, it would have been really difficult to try and master the voices of both Mr. Krabs and Mermaid Man, but without that iconic voices we know and love to this very day, it can become distracting. I mean, was Joe White smoking crack before he started recording? Mrs. Puff knows what I'm talking about, right, Mrs. Puff? Mrs. Puff? You're not looking too good. Are you okay? Buddy? Mate? Oh god, Mrs. Puff must have broken into my house and stolen all of my cocaine. Wait a minute, my cocaine? What are you talking about? I never had any cocaine. I mean, nor did I never bought any cocaine. I mean, I would never, ever associate myself with drug dealers that I knew before. I mean, that I never knew before in my life. And I can't go back to jail! So yeah, Battle for Bikini Bottom is not just a good game, it's a great game. The same platform style we've seen before, yes, but at the end of the day, it tries to be something more than just a typical and average platformer. And with the help and guidance from Heavy Iron Studios, they turned it into arguably one of the best childhood games for any nostalgia gamers. The level designs are superb, the voice actors did their job well, the soundtrack is nice to listen to, and the platforming is endlessly fun. SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom gets 8 out of 10. What can I say except play this game? This is a good example of turning a beloved TV show into a fantastic video game. And if you have enough creativity, source material, and with a lot of passion, anything is possible. A lot of people have been talking and demanding on a remake or a remastered edition, and when that day comes, I'll be there ready in line to purchase it. But until then, I'll just stick to the PlayStation 2 version. This is one of those games I'll be more than happy to play all over again, time after time. Good news, everyone! My brain is officially back to 100%, which means it's time to continue on with the Ratchet Clank review series. The next game I'm going to review is Ratchet Clank Tools of Destruction. Thank you for watching this review, and if you enjoy it, make sure to leave a like, share the video, and subscribe today. My name's the Gaming Critic, telling you to keep calm and keep playing video games.